Real Estate Talk is provided for general information only and should not be treated as a substitute for professional advice. Please consult your trusted financial advisor, real estate professional, or attorney before making any real estate or financial decisions. Please remember, when following advice, your results may vary, and all information covered here is not intended to cover all aspects of the subject material, but rather a sample of issues the hosts and guests consider important. And now, Real Estate Talk with your host, Victoria Rivadeneira. Each week, Victoria gathers some of the best minds in the business to provide both professionals and non-professionals with the inside tips and tools to make smarter deals. Whether you're a buyer or seller, Real Estate Talk will give you the competitive advantage you need. And now, here's Victoria Rivadeneira.
Thank you and welcome to Real Estate Talk. We live stream on Facebook.com/Victoria RIVA from New York's AM 710 WOR from iHeart Studios every Wednesday at 12 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. If you're watching us right now on Facebook, let us know by commenting, or better yet, send us some likes or send us some love, because we like love even more. Real Estate Talk airs every Sunday morning on AM 710, and our podcast can be found on retalkradio.com. I'm Victoria Rivadeneira, and I'm here with my co-host, Phil Ferranda. How are you today, Phil?
I'm very good, and I have to commend you. Your intro is much smoother than mine, because at first I have to apologize for not being you, and then I have to go into the spiel. And your spiel is just it's so much crisper. It's like you know what you're talking about.
Sometimes.
Yeah.
Not always, though.
Whereas I am pretending.
I don't think you ever pretend.
Fake it till you make it, Victoria.
There you go. There you go.
Someday you'll
So,
learn.
Phil, our country has experienced a hectic few weeks, wouldn't you say?
It's been a somber couple of weeks. We have natural disasters. We have major hackings of crucial information at corporations like Equifax. This is it's a rough spot for people, and they're facing some weird adversity now.
Absolutely, and the effects can be devastating at times.
I'd say when your house is under 3 feet of water, your credit is hacked, and you don't have clean water, you got a problem.
Yeah, sometimes a little bit of a problem. So we're a real estate show, and I always like to tie this back to the real estate topic, of course. And we know real estate is cyclical.
It is.
And we also know that we experienced a recent downturn in our economy, probably one of the worst downturns we've experienced since the Great Depression.
The Great Recession.
Yes, the Great Recession. And then we experienced a recovery.
Yes.
And now there are people in Florida. I mean, I was just in Florida. I took my daughter to Florida.
Yeah.
Houston first with Hurricane Harvey. But Hurricane Irma, to me, hit a little bit closer to home because my daughter's in Florida at school.
Right.
So we just spent 2 weeks down in Florida. I leave her very first week of school, and Hurricane Irma comes rolling in.
Yeah.
And they evacuate the entire state, and she has to come back home to New York. And that is devastating in itself. However, our hearts really go out to the homeowners, those people who were hit in Florida with this Great Recession a few years ago. They had a recovery. They're building themselves back up. They're finally getting their lives back together. And now they maybe bought a brand new house. They're happy in, and now it's underwater.
Yeah. Literally going from figuratively underwater 5-10 years ago.
Yes.
To literally underwater now, or knocked down. This is rough. This tries the character of people.
It really does. So how does one recover over and over and over again through their lifetime?
As the adage goes, it's not how many times you fall, it's how many times you get back up. And that sounds trite for a guy in a dry, comfortable studio to say that, but that's all we can do.
I'm actually glad you brought that up, because we tend to throw terms like that around all the time. And when we throw them around, it's, we're talking.
Yeah.
And we're saying, you can do this.
Mm-hmm.
But when you're living it, can you do it?
Yeah, that's the question.
Yeah.
It's easy to talk about.
It really is. So we have a very special guest with us today who specializes in this particular topic.
Yeah, it's an apt apt subject to bring up, and we've got an expert on it. So Jose Perez,
who actually flew in from Atlanta, which is not an easy thing to do right now.
Not an easy thing to do.
With the hurricane having just hit there as well.
Right. So we have a guy who knows a little bit about rags to riches and dealing with adversity. Jose is a native of Cuba, grew up in Jackson Heights, Queens, went to Archbishop Malloy, which those of you who are local have heard of. Went to University of Miami and got his MBA from the University of Texas, Hook 'em Horns. And he has lived in Atlanta for the last 29 years. He has 2 grown children in their 20s. He has spent time as a senior VP at Rheology. He's worked for Coldwell. He's worked for, beg your pardon, Rheology owns Coldwell, Century 21, ERA, Better Homes and Gardens, Sotheby's, among others.
They all fall under the umbrella of Rheology.
He's worked at Proxio and PCMS Consulting, I guess, is the enterprise.
Correct. Yep.
Yeah. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thanks for having me again.
I know I'd go from rags to riches.
Wow.
See? Now, again, I'm going to say, we have a good guest when they come with BYOM.
Yeah, that's bring your own music. That's not bad. I don't know, but suddenly I'm hungry. I want some pasta.
That's
Am I the only one that's hungry?
No, I get that too. I grew up in a very Italian family, and that is what we listen to on Sundays.
All right, there you go. So, this is not your typical real estate discussion, but as we say, under all is the land. And from someone in our industry to talk about, coming back, we've got somebody who can tell us about that. So. Where do you want to start, Jose? Do you want to start at the top, the bottom, or the middle?
Well, let's start at the real estate thing. It isn't specifically about real estate, but one constant that I can tell you about myself personally throughout the different challenges that I've faced, like many of your audience has probably faced, I've bought and sold real estate. And the appreciation from those homes that I bought and sold actually was part of what kept me going financially. So I don't want to diminish the fact that even though my personal story isn't specifically about real estate, this is a real estate show and there's a real estate connection to this.
Well, I'm glad that you say that too, because real estate builds wealth. And it doesn't matter what industry you're in. Once people tend to make it, per se, they go out and buy real estate. And that is really what builds their wealth.
Right.
But that also brings them to a level, the higher you go, the harder you fall.
Correct. Well, and again, the story, and I appreciate you all having me on here today. We want to talk about the beginning was the foundation that I had, like a lot of your listeners that, came from immigrant families. My parents came from Cuba in the early 60s and built themselves up. In fact, after only 8 years, they bought their first house in Jackson Heights, as a matter of fact. And
here in New York.
That's right. Yeah. And so a lot of what we're going to talk about here today that I want to share with anybody who might be going through some challenges in their career or in their life or financially or whatever is that I saw how hard they worked. And New York being such a melting pot, there's so many stories like that. But the key here and what drives me and why this topic is so near and dear to me is one thing is building yourself up from nothing when you come from wherever you came from or you came from humble beginnings. But what happens when you lose everything? You built yourself up however long it took, 5, 10, 20 years, and then it's a hurricane, it's a layoff, you got fired, you got divorced, something bad happened in your life that really knocked you down. And like Phil said a few minutes ago, the question is, how do you react? And some people react positively and figure it out, like I hope I've been able to do, and maybe some of you have, and some people don't. And I want to reach those people that feel like they've lost hope somehow and be able to touch those people to know that there is hope and that you can't give up. And we'll talk about some of those specifics in a few minutes.
And those types of people could have lost their home to foreclosure. They could be facing a short sale. They could be dealing with any of the related adversities to the real estate crash. Let's face it, we may be in a recovery overall, but it's a very uneven recovery, and it's some communities, the domino still hasn't fallen there yet. So this is an apt message.
Right. And here's the thing. Everyone experiences something, whether it's, a death, a loss, a divorce, a foreclosure, a loss of a job, a hurricane, illness. There's always something.
Mm-hmm.
And there is always something. And again, the purpose of what I want to talk about is that success story of someone who came from nothing and built themselves up. That's beautiful, very inspiring, and I love that, like everybody does. I think it's even more inspiring when someone got there, lost it, and did it again, or maybe did it a second and third time, because that really shows something. Abraham Lincoln ran and lost office 3 or 4 times, had a nervous breakdown, went bankrupt, and then he became president of the United States.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Fail forward.
Yeah.
Yeah, John
So
Maxwell.
prior to the show, when we were preparing, because we're very professional here, we prepare for our,
We're
our
professional?
show. We're very professional.
Yes.
So we were.
You should have seen us 5
professionally
minutes before the show.
professionally preparing for the radio show. We spoke about the personal story that you wanted to relate about your dad.
Right. Yeah. So my dad and mom came to the United States in 1962. He, like a lot of other immigrants, started at the very bottom, built himself up. We, again, houses, vacations. In fact, we lived in Brazil for a year in one of his moves, which was amazing. I got the chance to live in another country and living very well. And in 1984, through a lot of circumstances that he didn't really have a lot of control over, he lost his job. And at the time, I was away at college, and I'd call home, and he was not himself. He was depressed, and unfortunately, he didn't put a lot of the positive energy into it that I wish he would have, and went through a slide that, of course, he eventually recovered from. But it was very, very painful for me to watch this, because here's my dad, the person that I've learned from, and that set the foundation.
How old
for
were
him.
you at that time?
I was in my mid-20s, early to mid-20s.
Okay.
And so it less, the image of my dad was this person that came here and worked his butt off like everybody else, and provided for my sister and my brother and I and my mom and my grandparents. And now all of a sudden he's got nothing, and I can't help because I'm still too young. I don't have any money. And it was devastating.
But you were old enough to feel that you could help.
Exactly. And as I grew up, I remember being in Texas after graduating from University of Texas. I moved to Houston, and the economy there in 1984 was just miserable. So here I am with an MBA, and I ended up having to wait tables because I couldn't get a job. And part of me thought, wow, well, this must have been what it was like for my parents when they came with no money. Now, here I am with this education, just like they had an education. They came from Cuba and they had nothing. And I was now put in this same situation. I could have very easily picked up the phone. This was before, all the bad stuff happened to him. I could easily picked up the phone and said, hey, can you guys help me out? But I didn't want to.
And I'm coming home.
Yeah, exactly. I didn't want to because I felt too proud that if they were able to make themselves up with nothing, then I should be able to do that too. So that's when I saw his fall, it was particularly impactful to me.
Right. And adversity builds character. And at that moment, you were building character.
Exactly. And that's a very good point, Victoria, that I want everybody here is that exactly what I used to say to myself back then is whatever doesn't defeat you makes you stronger. Mm-hmm. Right. And some of those early lessons that I learned was to put yourself in their shoes, whoever your idol is. In my case, it was my parents and what they had done. All right. If they were able to do it, then why shouldn't I be able to do it? And then the other one that really started to kind of dawn on me when I was going through these struggles and I ended up having to wait tables is not only how much I enjoyed waiting tables, which was kind of fun, but the fact that I was helping people and the satisfaction that I got out of talking to people, maybe that's why I ended up in sales, I guess, is the satisfaction that I got. So the second lesson that really has helped me over the years that I would love for people to take away from is be kind to everybody you come into contact with, whether it's the person waiting on you, the person shining your shoes, the person at the hotel, or whoever it is, because you don't know what they're going through.
I love that you said that.
Yeah.
Yes.
You have no idea what they're going through. They could have just lost.
And there's no reason not to be kind.
And there's no reason. Exactly.
It costs nothing.
Exactly. And it makes you feel good. And so, we'll keep talking about my personal situation, but I can't tell you how many times I've been down for whatever reason. And it doesn't stop me from being nice. And when I'm nice and someone's now nice back to you, it pays it forward. And you're right. You don't know what somebody's going through. And they just may have needed that smile. They may have needed that brief conversation, that brief interaction that maybe changed their day and made them feel good about themselves.
100% in agreement of that.
Okay.
Sure.
So if you think that waiting tables was a good lesson, try bartending.
Yep.
Yeah. Similar thing. I think one of the things about working for gratuities is that it gives you the distinction of service, and it certainly gives you some insight into people that don't appreciate the efforts of people who are out there laying it on the line. So in 1984, your father's been here 22 years. He's lived the American dream, and loses his job and hits this wall.
Right.
And there's not a lot you can do because you're still a young man and you're still trying to get your life established.
Right.
It took him how long to get back up, dust himself off?
It took him 2 or 3 years, and he finally did. And listen, he's a very spiritual guy, and it all worked out. But it was hard. It was really hard on him. I don't think he expected anything like that to happen. And that's another thing that's interesting is you never really expect it to happen.
Yeah. As soon as you said that, that was the thought that went right through my head.
You never really know what's going to happen.
Life changes on a dime.
Yeah. So you could be successful, but that doesn't guarantee that you're going to continue to be successful. You could be healthy. It doesn't guarantee you're going to continue to be healthy.
Right.
And so the question is, as you said earlier, Phil, is how do you deal with that adversity? Do you crawl up in a little ball and get depressed about it and feel sorry for yourself, which a lot of people do. And I know my dad did for a little while. Or do you get up and say, hell no, I'm coming back?
Right.
And then
shake yourself off.
And remember all the things that got you there. And that's one of the things that I was learning early on in Houston, waiting tables and all the things I was going through is, you know what? I can do this, and keep saying that to yourself and staying positive. That's the other thing is staying really, really positive because it's too easy to let negative energy suck you dry. And then again, you're crawled up in a ball and don't want to do anything.
Let's talk about that a little bit, staying positive. Because when people are down, like attracts like. And other people will bring them down even further.
Right.
Sharing stories of woe. So how does one stay so positive?
Well, that's a great question. First of all, I think you have to kind of convince yourself in a way. I believe in positive affirmations, and I read them to myself all the time.
Me too.
And you're rewiring yourself, right?
Yes.
So that's the first thing is just kind of wiring your mind so that I've got it on my phone. So I've got at 6 a.m. every day, my affirmations pop up, and I have no choice but to read them. And throughout the day, if something happens, I just
Are you writing them down? Because I write down my affirmations.
Well, I've got them on my phone. So
Okay.
I wrote them down however long ago, and they just pop up every day, and I read them. But I think the other part of staying positive is going back to helping people is knowing that you're not alone. A lot of times when you're going through a situation, you realize, oh my God, I'm a mess. I don't know what to do. And a lot of people are too proud, especially I think older generations don't like to talk about their problems, right? And a lot of people keep that inside. And one of the things that has led me to really research and understand this topic is that as I was going through my situations over the years, I talked to people. Hey, Phil, have you ever dealt with this situation? Or maybe I knew that Phil had an issue or whatever it was.
Oh, he has many.
And I found that even people, you're right.
That's a whole other show.
Yeah, that's a different show.
I don't know
Sorry,
We're going to
Jose.
talk about you.
I don't know that I want to touch that one. But people that I saw as my mentors, my heroes, I started finding out they had real issues, and I had no idea. And so just talking about it makes you feel good because it's not that you want to have a pity party because you definitely don't want to do that. But what I found in having these conversations with people that have been through situations or maybe going through something right now is talking about it really helps. Where I can see, hey, Jose, I've heard this from people, in the past. Hey, I have a lot of confidence in you, and you can figure it out. And look at what I'm going through right now. And so again, putting yourself in other people's shoes, knowing they've been through it too. If they're working it out, then you can work it out. And of course, you got to make sure you're hanging around with the right people that've got to have that right frame of mind. If they're going to be negative, then of course, then you don't want to be around that.
Well, it's
Right.
a fork in the road, I would say, right? Because if you hit a rough spot, you can have a pity party. And I would, by the way, say, if you want to curl up into a fetal position, make an appointment to do so, and then make it last 45 minutes, and then get back going. Right? You can't do that all day. But
Right.
I think there is some value in licking your wounds to a degree. But get up, right?
Right.
So so you can take the fork in the road where the pity party goes, or you can also elicit support from like-minded individuals and keep your eye on your why.
Mm-hmm.
So I think keeping your eye on the big picture, the end game, why is it worth it to you to press on? Could be your kids, could be your dreams, could be your goals, could be stuff you wrote down, could be stuff that just, you don't want that dream to die.
Right.
And that's probably a hell of a good exercise to keep your eye on the ball.
And also understanding the bigger picture that there is a reason for everything that happens. If you go back and you look, which is why I love It's a Wonderful Life, you go back and you look at George wanting to jump that bridge and kill himself. And then he goes down and he saves Clarence. And Clarence puts him on this journey of, George, if you hadn't been born, your brother wouldn't have been, able to save all those people.
Right.
Your wife would have been, whatever she was.
Not happy.
Not happy. Yeah, there you go.
We'll leave it there.
Your kids,
Yeah.
your kids wouldn't have been born. Doc Gower, the pharmacist, would have killed that person. When
Yeah.
he,
That's right,
all
that's
those
right.
things. But he doesn't really believe it at the beginning, just like a lot of other people that we're talking about here might not believe it in a minute, but you have to believe that dream. You have to believe that you are making a difference. But if you're not in tune with that, which is, again, why I said earlier, people don't expect this coming. So they're kicking ass, they're making money, they're doing all these things, and they're kind of bulletproof. And then all of a sudden something bad happens, and they forget all the good things that they've done. They know they were making a lot of money. They know they had a big title. They know all these other things, all this stuff they had.
And they feel like it was taken away from them when really they need to take a step back.
Exactly.
And if I'm hearing you correctly, take a good look at what just happened and say, where's the lesson in this? Because this could be a blessing.
Exactly.
Yep.
Take inventory of your assets.
Yeah, I like it. So basically what I heard from you before we go to break, I'm just going to recap what you said. You said affirmations are really key. Remembering that you're not alone. Connecting and helping others, keeping your eye on your why is what you said, Phil. And then basically what's the lesson in this, and is this a blessing? Is that right?
That's correct.
Awesome. Well, that's really, really good information. When we come back, Jose Perez is going to tell us, basically he's going to share, not even tell us, he's going to share his personal experience and the lessons that he's learned in much greater detail when he once crashed and burned. I'm Victoria Rivadeneira. I am here with Phil Ferranda, and you're listening to Real Estate Talk from New York's WOR from iHeart Studios.
Hi, this is Tom Marinaro, the president of Residential Home Funding, a top East Coast mortgage company. Now is the time to buy a home before interest rates go up. Lock in with a low rate today, or turn your current home into an asset by cashing in on its equity. Why rent when you can own? Why not get cash out of your home now? So call me right now at 1-800-636-LEND. And as a bonus, if you call me right now, I will waive all of my lender fees. That's right, zero lender fees, saving you thousands of dollars. This offer is for purchasing or refinancing a home. Call me and learn more at 1-800-636-LEND. Residential funding is part of the New York and New Jersey Departments of Banking and Insurance. Our NMLS number is 36152. The number once again is 1-800-636-LEND. That's 1-800-636-LEND.
Do you know what to look for when choosing a title company? It's important to find a provider with years of experience, solid financial backing, and proven expertise on all types of transactions. With Stewart Title Company, you get that. We've been protecting real estate titles since 1893. That long history, along with our sound financial picture, is your assurance of our knowledge and title expertise. Our underwriters are known as being industry leaders. They're responsive, like a good partner should be. And with Stewart Title offices being located worldwide, we can provide title and closing expertise anywhere you need it. Why not let Stewart Title help you close more transactions? Visit Stewart.com to learn more.
Every loan has a story, a family, and a dream that fuels it. My name is Jacqueline Sendra, mortgage loan originator number 39117, specializing in first-time homebuyer financing and an array of mortgage products. We recognize the importance of competitive rates and a custom-tailored mortgage loan to suit your needs. United Northern Mortgage Bankers Ltd. celebrates over 37 years of mortgage banking success. Allow us to help you achieve your dream of homeownership by reaching out to me today at 631-478-2706. Again, 631-478-2706. United Northern Mortgage Lenders Ltd. NMLS number 7230 is an equal housing lender and a licensed mortgage banker located at 3601 Hempstead Turnpike, Suite 300, Levittown, New York 11756, New York State Department of Financial Services.
For more real estate talk, download our free podcast at retalkradio.com. Now back to Victoria Rivadeneira.
And we're back. If you're just joining us now, you can listen to our entire show by going to our podcast, which can be found at retalkradio.com. We are here with Jose Perez, and Jose is about to share his own personal story and his experience when he once crashed and burned.
Yeah. So we talked about Houston and waiting tables. So clearly with 6 years of education, lots of money, that was not something that I was planning on doing. It was just out of necessity, and again, taught me a lot. So the combination of seeing my dad and then my personal experience really laid the foundation, which I'm going to walk through here today. So I moved back to Miami, where my folks were.
Not a bad place to be.
Not a bad place to be. Maybe last week it was, but
right.
But got married and started started my career in earnest, and again, as I was saying earlier, started to accumulate stuff. house and a nicer car and vacations. And at some point around 1990, I decided, you know what, I want to own my own business. I'd always wanted to own my own business. And, my wife, was making pretty decent money, so we could walk away from my salary and do that. It was great for a while, but I was young. I was 28 when I started the company. Didn't have a good situation with a partner. And within 4 years...
Wait a minute. A partner and it went wrong?
Yeah.
I can't believe
What
that.
could possibly go wrong?
Can't believe that.
Oh.
So let's see, about 3 or 4 months before I ended up having to walk away, I had essentially lost everything. And I remember going to a Miami Dolphins game, and I wanted a beer. And I go to the ATM, and I had $4.38 to my name. And not only was it depressing that I only had $4.38 to my name, but I couldn't afford to buy a beer. And so it was kind of the low point, where I realized, okay, well, things didn't work out. So once again, am I going to feel sorry for myself, or I'm going to do something about it? So from that point on, I worked myself out of the business and basically turned it over to my partner. There was really nothing there. Unfortunately, one of the stupid decisions that I had made is that I had personally signed guarantees for leases and a lot of different things for the business, which was my first indication that I made a wrong decision with my partner, because he knew that. And, anyway, it all happened that way. My point is, add insult to injury. Now, all of a sudden, I'm on the hook for all these things. I'm on the hook for leases. I'm on the hook for all kinds of things. And, I'm in debt. And I'm thinking, wow.
And that's scary.
And it's
very
really,
scary.
really, really, really scary. And again, we were doing well up to then. And all of a sudden now, marital issues, because there's, the money's tight. And so
the number one reason for marital issues is financial problems.
Exactly.
Yep.
So going back to this idea of, okay, well, my parents went through something like this and they made it. Okay, I'm pretty nice to people. In fact, I will tell you I'm very nice to people, because there were several people that I'd signed personal guarantees with that let me off the hook because of how they felt about me, and essentially made my ex-partner, sign for these things. So those were things that are starting to kind of solidify how I felt about, listen, you're not alone. You're going through the situation. You got to stay positive. And that's exactly what I did. And I'd go around. There's a affirmation. One of my affirmations was, I feel happy, I feel healthy, I feel terrific. I'd say that over and over again, so much so that people would make fun of me.
But I also heard something in what you were telling, as you were telling your story, and that was a sense of gratitude.
Yes. Yeah. Sense of gratitude that, I mean, again, regardless of the issues, my wife stuck through me. At that point, my kids were little, so I've got kids, I've got my family, and I had... I had a positive attitude, going back to the positive attitude that, I'm going to figure this out. And so I did. I went and got a job with what is now Realogy. I started out just as a street-level franchise salesperson. Within 2 years, had paid off all my debt, built myself up to be the top salesperson in the company. Then I became a regional VP, then a senior VP. And I had all this stuff. So my career at Realogy was highly successful. And, I thank them for the opportunity that they gave me. But guess what? I started, after a few years thinking, well, is this really just about money? Because I had that remember that receipt I told you about, that $4.38?
Yeah.
I kept that receipt in my pocket all those years. I swore I would never be poor again. That this would never happen to me again. And I kept it in my pocket. And as a friend of mine told me later on, he said, you know what? You were playing not to lose rather than playing to win. And I ended up making
That is really good.
Yeah. And
you were playing not to lose rather than playing to win.
Exactly. And so I made it all about money. And so, I did really well. Nice cars, vacations, second homes, all the stuff that you want. And I was miserable after 10 or 12 years.
There's a line that I use all the time when I speak. And I always say that success doesn't equal happiness.
Exactly.
Happiness brings success.
Exactly.
And a lot of times we do have it in reverse.
I think one could say that if you didn't have a positive attitude, you may not have landed that job.
That's true. Or had the success that I had in that job.
Right. So
over
they
time.
saw
So the
something in
happiness
you.
really brought his success. The fact that
Oprah
he
says the
stayed
same
positive and the fact that he found the happiness brought the success. But what you're saying is once you had all the things that you thought you wanted, you realized you really weren't so happy.
Exactly. And let's go back, though, to another lesson. We talked about early in the conversation, people that come here with nothing or people that start with nothing, and they have that fire inside them that drives them to be successful. Well, part of what I think I want to get across here to somebody who's had it and lost it, maybe more than once, is you got there once. Why can't you get there again?
Mm-hmm.
And so for me, when I lost everything and I ended up going to work at Realogy and having the success that I had, that passion, it was not just about, that I didn't, want to be poor again. It was also that passion to succeed. So part of it was financial for sure, but part of it was, you know what, I'm not a failure. And most people that go through a bad situation, they start blaming themselves and oh, I'm a failure, I'm no good. Or they start doubting themselves. And that's when you start getting into this pity party and you start feeling sorry for yourself. And, some people don't recover from that. They start drinking, they get in trouble, whatever. They give up or
they soothe themselves.
They soothe themselves or they don't aim high ever again because they don't want to fall again.
Yeah.
And I think that's important to remember.
I agree. So Jim Carrey says something that I like, and it's kind of tying into what you say. And I'm going to read it because I don't want to mess it up. He says, "I hope everyone could get rich and famous and have everything they've ever dreamed of, so that they will know it's not the answer."
Right. That's very profound. That's true.
And that's basically what you're saying.
And
so
that's
you built yourself up to the point that you had all the things that you thought you wanted.
But I still wasn't. But
tell us about what you did next, because now you realize you're not happy.
Exactly. So now I'm in my mid-40s-ish, and I've got all this stuff and all this, success and titles and whatever, and I just wasn't really happy. And so, is it a midlife crisis? What is this? How did I get here? Talking heads, and I'm like, I got this really nice car. I'm driving down the road, and I'm just not happy. I in the middle of the night, I'm looking out the window, going, "Is this it? Is this it?" And so I did something that a lot of people, in my situation at the time did. I said, you know what? I'm going to go for it, right? And so I risked everything, and I resigned from my big position at Realogy. People thought I was out of my mind. My father, "Are you kidding me? How could you do that?" My wife was the only one that was, not, out of her mind. Whatever you want to do, she's awesome and very supportive. I'll talk more about her later. My bosses, you could be the chairman one day, and it's like, you know what? That's not what I want.
So we just got a great comment from one of our viewers. Nancy says, "Would like to see our industry acknowledge that success is driven by happiness, being a good parent, being a good contributing citizen, being a good colleague, and not just on raw production numbers."
Yeah, that's beautiful.
That is
beautiful, Nancy.
That's beautiful.
Thank
and here's the thing, some people might think that that's maybe not feasible or not responsible, but I say that's not true. You can have both. But as you said earlier, with quoting Jim Carrey, you have to get to that point. Very few people, I would say, do both from the beginning. Right. Some people have to crash and burn before they realize what they really have. And some people hopefully, do that and some don't. So for me, it was, okay, I've got this success. Okay. I lost everything once before. So you know what? I'm going to take another chance. I can do it.
Right.
And I did, and I left and I started my own business, this PCMS Consulting. And, I'll never forget the first couple of months. I loved my time at Realogy, but it's a very big, corporate structure. So now all of a sudden I'm my own boss. I'm flying. One of my first clients was in Silicon Valley. I'm flying out to Silicon Valley every few weeks and hanging out with all these cool, techie, rich people. And then I had another client in Miami. I'll never forget.
And it feeds the ego.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
You're feeling good. You're walking in. Everyone knows you. This is a good feeling.
Well, and I'm sitting there and I'm thinking to myself, my brother's an artist actually here in New York, and he has always lived life on his terms. He always wanted to be an artist. And I used to watch my brother back when I was doing all the big corporate stuff and making all this money. And my brother's going surfing every day, and he's painting, and he's going to Europe. I'm going, why can't I do that? And so I said, you know what? I want to live life on my terms. And that's part of the reason why I left to start my company. So back to those first couple of months. So I'm sitting in Miami with my clients, and we're at this outdoor cafe. It's beautiful. The breeze is blowing. I'm having a cocktail, and I'm thinking, wow, and I'm getting paid for this. This is awesome. Without all that, that structure that I felt like I had to run away from.
Now, rat race.
But here's the thing: the rat race also pays
the bills
very well, right?
Yeah, so I understand this very well, because I think you and I have mirrored a lot of things as you're describing it, because I left a very very nice, cushy corporate job as well to become a free spirit.
Right.
But yes, I understand.
And so you have to balance, some people need the corporate structure. And that's fine. And I look at people that I know. I've got one really good friend who's got a big corporate job. He loves his job. Right. He's been doing it for 25 years. He absolutely loves it. But then I know other people that are in the big corporate job taking the paycheck and they're miserable. Mm-hmm. So you got to figure out what that balance is. And if you're going to go out and be a free spirit like you have and like I have, realize that you might not make as much money, and you might be risking everything like we both have, I'm sure. The question is, what are you learning along the way that is really feeding your soul, that keeps you going? And maybe putting money, is not necessarily the all important thing that you have to have. And I think that's part of success, is not just what's in the bank account.
Is realizing it's not about money. Very much what Nancy said. One of the things I love about the real estate industry is that real estate agents and brokers and basically everyone in this industry, we're smart, we're social, we're friendly. We really do care about people. We're generous. And every once in a while you run into the people, typically when they're first coming into the business and they get their first wind of success, then you see that ego come into play. And the rest of us kind of watch, and then that person, gets it, and they'll learn. Get in, they either step up or they step out of the business.
Step up or step out.
And I love that about our industry, because we do realize it's not about the money. It's really about the people. It's about the relationships that we build along the way.
So there's a relatively new metric in real estate where people used to be evaluated solely on their production. Right. We would give awards to agents for selling more. The agents that sold less didn't get the recognition. Online reviews have changed that. Online reviews have created a metric by which maybe you're not making enormous, crazy bajillion dollars, but boy, your clients are happy. Your clients
service is there. Yeah. Relationship is there.
So you're getting 5-star reviews. By the way, that will become profit because happy clients yield referrals and build a practice. Right. But the idea of happy clients, of transferring your commitment, your happiness, your joy to the client experience is a relatively new thing that could be measured and recognized. It was always there, but being able to measure and recognize it is a relatively new phenomenon in the real estate industry.
And when you do what you love and you do the right thing, the money will always follow.
And it shows.
Yeah, and the money will always follow. And I'm not saying that money is not important, because money is important.
Course. Money
pays our bills. It gives us the lifestyle that we've become accustomed to or we want, right? So money is important, but it should not be the motivating factor. Do the right thing. Do what you love. The money will follow, and happiness will be there as well.
That's what I tell my kids all the time. My son just recently got a big promotion. He'd been kind of unhappy. He studied what he wanted to study, had the job, but he wasn't making any money. I said, listen, it'll eventually come. If you're passionate about it and you love it, it'll come, and sure enough, it has. Yes. But something else, you talked about the real estate industry. And I think really America in general, people living paycheck to paycheck, not in some cases because they don't make enough money, but in some cases because they spend too much money, because they have to maintain that aura of success, right? That, okay, if I drive the right car, then people are going to look at me and be successful, which is part of what I've uncovered over the last few months in talking to people about this topic, people that I viewed as, oh, wow, this guy's really successful and he's making all this money. That really wasn't.
They really weren't. I actually learned that in real estate when I would have someone show up in the big fancy car and the beautiful clothes and the jewelry and they look like they had the perfect life financially. And then I would run their credit with the loan officer and say, wow, not only is it 540, but they have no assets. They have nothing in the bank. They had nothing because they were living well beyond their means, like most Americans do.
Right, and unfortunately, it's because you got to look successful. You got to have more than the guy next door. And one of the things, as I said earlier, that's been very, very gratifying to me, and what's put me on this path to try to help people, is that you should open up. Whether you open up to me and what I'm doing, or to a friend, or I've got a group of about 4 or 5 people that I talk to on a regular basis, and we've kind of formed this little support group. And everybody's going through different things in their life. And I got to tell you something. It's been very gratifying. One of them is a friend of mine who's lost his job, never quite recovered. He's doing handiwork right now just to make ends meet. He got a job in Houston selling new homes a week before the hurricane. So that guy's feeling like, oh my God, everywhere I turn, but he needs my support. He needs someone to feel like, you know what, just keep trying. Look, how will you?
Life is cyclical, like real estate.
How were you
going to
know that there was going to be a hurricane that was going to mess everything up? So that's why, again, as I said earlier, you always have to reach out to people and be kind because you just don't know what they're going through.
You don't. Another great comment. We're getting awesome comments from the viewership here. Do what you love. Do the right thing, from Elisa. That's great. And that is actually a far better life lesson than renting the appearance of happiness.
Exactly.
Yeah, I agree. So we do have to go to another break. So when we come back, we're going to hear more from Jose Perez. We're so excited that you're here and talking about such a great topic. I'm Victoria Rivadeneira. I'm here with Phil Ferranda, and you're listening to Real Estate Talk from New York's WOR from iHeart Studios.
Every loan has a story, a family, and a dream that fuels it. My name is Jacqueline Sendra, mortgage loan originator number 39117, specializing in first-time homebuyer financing and an array of mortgage products. We recognize the importance of competitive rates and a custom-tailored mortgage loan to suit your needs. United Northern Mortgage Bankers Ltd. celebrates over 37 years of mortgage banking success. Allow us to help you achieve your dream of homeownership by reaching out to me today at 631-478-2706. Again, 631-478-2706. United Northern Mortgage Lenders Ltd. NMLS number 7230 is an equal housing lender and a licensed mortgage banker located at 3601 Hempstead Turnpike, Suite 300, Levittown, New York 11756, New York State Department of Financial Services.
This is Paul Oster, the nation's credit repairman, and I want to help you improve your credit. As the CEO of Better Qualified, I've helped thousands of people over the past 10 years. I'm the credit expert for Fox Business News and all the major networks. I'm a certified FICO Pro that uses the consumer laws to help delete negative information off of credit reports. We have a debt elimination program that focuses on the laws surrounding collections, judgments, and charge-offs. You could be entitled to up to $1,000 per violation. Call now for your free credit consultation. 888-533-8138. That number again, 888-533-8138, or visit us on the web at betterqualified.com.
Hi, this is Tom Marinaro, the president of Residential Home Funding, a top East Coast mortgage company. Now is the time to buy a home before interest rates go up. Lock in with a low rate today, or turn your current home into an asset by cashing in on its equity. Why rent when you can own? Why not get cash out of your home now? So call me right now at 1-800-636-LEND. And as a bonus, if you call me right now, I will waive all of my lender fees. That's right, zero lender fees, saving you thousands of dollars. This offer is for purchasing or refinancing a home. Call me and learn more at 1-800-636-LEND. Residential funding is part of the New York and New Jersey Departments of Banking and Insurance. Our NMLS number is 36152. The number once again is 1-800-636-LEND. That's 1-800-636-LEND.
RETalkRadio.com is your portal for cutting-edge information to give you an advantage in the competitive real estate market. Now, back to Real Estate Talk with Victoria Rivadeneira.
And we're back. If you're just joining us now, you can listen to our entire show by going to our podcast found at retalkradio.com. We're talking to Jose Perez. I'm here with J. Philip Ferranda.
Yes, you are.
Did we ever tell anyone what the J stands for?
Joseph. Patron saint of housing, as a matter of fact.
Very good.
So one of the things that resonates with me about this is that the picture of real estate on TV is not really how the industry works. You don't always have happy stories. You have people facing short sales, people having difficult life transitions who have to sell for sad reasons, people who have to get a rental, people that have to say goodbye, bury their parents and sell the estate. There are real estate agents who are just trying to cobble together that first deal so that they can get momentum in their business. And these are principles that I think are really important for them to understand because life continues to go on. And one of the things I love that Barbara Corcoran said was that most of her big successes came on the heels of some pretty spectacular setbacks.
Yeah.
Adversity.
Yes, she's a great example.
Really?
Adversity brings success most of the time.
I mean, I remember hearing her speaking, and her real estate career did not start out, with an Ivy League degree and a trust fund. It started out as a waitress in a diner in Fort Lee.
Okay, that was Queens, yeah.
And she used to take the
Close
bus.
enough.
Yeah.
The bus to go show homes.
Yeah.
Picture that.
Close enough. Yeah. So these are important things, and this is how it relates back to housing. We were kind of talking about during the break. Well, where's the housing? you know. But this is not just where you drive the nail. This is not just granite countertops. This is people's lives.
Well, but you know, going back, it is a real estate show, and I said at the beginning, part of what sustained me financially, I've never had to declare bankruptcy. Okay, a lot of people have.
Mm-hmm.
Part of what sustained me financially during those hard times was the equity that I had earned in the homes that I had bought that appreciated. That either I took a home equity line to get through the rough patch, or I moved and I made a bunch of money and I bought my next place. You know, and that's important.
Right.
That's a big asset that takes you through life.
Absolutely. And once again, real estate does build wealth if done properly.
Right.
And
Done properly.
We have had a lot of people, especially when the cycle is on the upswing, that feel that real estate is a short-term investment, and that is never the case. It is a long-term investment, and you have to know the local area in which you're purchasing so that you understand what that long-term investment looks like further on down the line, which is why you want to use a professional.
One ought not day trade in real estate. Too clunky.
Yeah.
Yep.
Too clunky. No agility there.
Yep. But when someone does fall on hard times in real estate, there are real estate professionals out there that can pull you through this.
Right.
And that's what we do best.
They're trusted advisors.
Mm-hmm.
Given the amount of money involved, you need an advocate.
Absolutely.
You absolutely need an advocate. Okay, so you were able to leverage your real estate to get you through the rough times, all right? And there was more you wanted to share with us, and so I'm going to shut up.
Yeah, I think.
No, you were going to shut. I doubt it. You'll be
Briefly.
talking again.
Briefly.
Yeah, I think just in these last few minutes that we have together, I want to touch upon the epiphany that has kind of engulfed me over the last few years as it relates to how lucky I really am. When I was, worrying about not going back to being poor again and working just for the money, as successful as I was doing that, I was ignoring to a certain degree my family, my wife. And I will tell you that my wife and I just celebrated our 30th anniversary a few months ago.
Congratulations.
Thank you. And it's a huge accomplishment, obviously. But I think more importantly, I've realized over the last 10 or 12 years how important not only my wife is to my success and to who I am, but, the family that we've raised and my sister and my brother and my parents. And how, obviously, like you say, you need money to pay stuff and vacations or whatever. But at the end of the day, regardless of whether you have $1 million in the bank or $10 in the bank, if you have all these other things, and I know it sounds trite and you hear it all the time, but it's so true, because when I hear about success stories, you hear about all these outrageous things that people have done, or, some guy that, ended up in jail and now he's rich, or, whatever,
Mm-hmm.
I'm talking to people like you and I, and there's a lot more people like you and I than there are that guy who had this ridiculous thing that happened and he turned around and was amazingly successful. I think there's a lot of people in everyday life, a lot of people I'm sure listening here right now, that have either gone through this, are going through this, or will go through this. And I'd like to address the people that have not gone through this and say, you know what, it's going to probably happen at some point, because you just don't know.
None of us gets out of this
Something's
life
going to happen.
without something
Listen,
happening.
I have a good friend in Arizona who's highly successful. In fact, he just retired, but he lost his wife to breast cancer a few years ago.
Mm.
I have another friend, again, similar story, also lost his wife to breast cancer. I talk to those guys, and they look at me and they say, you have everything. I lost my wife. Now, granted, they've moved on or whatever, but the point being is that you just never know. And so if you have these foundations that we've talked about in this show, and these affirmations and this belief that you can make it back, then that's going to carry you through. And more importantly is also the impact that you've had on others' lives. And I'd like to talk about that for a second if I can.
Sure.
So the term or the affirmation, I feel happy, I feel healthy, I feel terrific. It's a 60-year-old affirmation. I can't remember the motivational speaker back from the 60s or something that did this. I picked up on this in the early 80s. I feel healthy, I feel happy, I feel terrific. I feel happy, I feel happy. I did it all the time, so much so that people would make fun of me.
It was probably Pearl who did that.
Yeah, it may have been. Yeah. So there was a college-age student that worked with me. Her name was Kathy, and she would make fun of me. She goes, "You're crazy. What are you? Oh, you got to have positive affirmation. You got to be positive." Well, so that was, let's say, 25, maybe 30 years ago. I ran into Kathy by phone, not in person. I ran into Kathy by phone. Somebody gave her my number, and she reached out to me about 5 years ago. Here's what Kathy said to me. She says, Jose, I used to think you were crazy, but then I started having kids, and I started telling them this affirmation, and she's telling me now that her kids, who are teenagers, are saying, I feel happy, I feel healthy, I feel terrific. So not only did I impact her life, but I've impacted their lives and potentially other people's lives just from that. That's one story. There's a guy that worked for me back in the day that was one of my better salespeople. And he must call me every month to thank me about something that I taught him 10 or 15 years ago that's helped him to be successful. That is so amazingly gratifying to me. And the last one that I'll tell you is that I play guitar. I bring guitar. I'm not a professional. I'll just bring a guitar to a party. And I do it quite often. And over the years, I've done it so much that people, and people have had so much fun that people will come up to me and say, oh, my God, that night you played, that was that was the best party I ever had, or whatever. What I'm trying to say here is that you just don't know how you're touching people. And so when you're down and out and feeling like, oh, my God, life's horrible, I've lost everything, you have to remember that regardless of what happened to you before, you've impacted people somehow. That's got to be able to drive you through those dark days and those dark times that maybe make you feel like giving up, because you're impacting people even if you don't realize it. And when it's all about money, that's all people think about it. They don't think about these other things.
Absolutely. So I want to correct. I said Pearl. It's Peel. P-E-A-L.
Norman Vincent Peale.
Yes,
That's
Norman
it.
Vincent Peale.
There you go.
Yes.
I have to tell you something. So we're both on the Google here, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I Googled, I feel happy, healthy, terrific, and I got W. Clement Stone.
Mm.
Those are not too. Those are too bad. Those are two guys that aren't too bad.
Yeah.
To have quotes from.
Yes. Well, Norman Vincent Peale wrote The Power of Positivity.
Yep.
Right.
And I was introduced to that as a very young child from my father, which was awesome.
And that's a
lesson
great
for
point.
Me.
That's a great point. Going back to kids, is if we're teaching kids this, whether as a parent or in school, they don't teach you this stuff in school.
No.
Right. And to me, that's way more important than the accounting class. Pardon me if anybody's an accountant, but I mean,
studied English.
Yeah, so
it's okay, brother. It's good.
You got to know this stuff. So I said earlier how my favorite movie is It's a Wonderful Life. So at the end of that movie, when he thought he had lost everything, and he comes back, and they're at the house, and he's got Zuzu in his arms and the wife, and everybody's come by. I'm getting chills telling you the story.
Right.
Everybody's come by throwing money. I mean, the brother comes back from New York, and that's success.
That is success.
That's success.
And it is about the people, always about the people. It's always about the relationships that we build. I'm always surprised, and Phil and I even had this conversation on the way in. I'm always surprised about people who burn bridges in this business, but also in life in general. Why would you ever burn a bridge? Everyone that comes into your life has come into your life for a reason. And you always want that to have access to these people, because you never know when you'll need them. You'll never know when they need you. You'll never know the positivity that they'll add to your life. So I think that's a really big lesson here as well, because if there's anyone that has burnt a bridge, make up with that person. Extend the olive branch, because it is always about the people. And the more people you have around you, the more successful you'll always be. And I think you definitely hit on that.
Right.
That whole reap what you sow thing.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I should probably write that down.
And it's also something that gives you gratification and makes you want to work harder, right? I mean, how many people are actually doing what they love doing right now? I would say
not enough.
Yeah.
Not enough. So they're doing it for a paycheck, and that's not a good reason to do a job. So if you're doing what you love, in my case, I love helping people. And, fortunately, between all the different things I've done, I've been able to do that. I'm doing more of this now, which, is helping people. There's a gratification that comes with it. I was on the phone recently with one of our clients and, walked her through whatever she needed me to help her out with this technology that she's got. And I hung up the phone. I felt good. All right. I helped her, and I think that a lot of people are doing jobs just for the money and not realizing this. And then again, when you go back to what the topic of this interview is rags to riches, to rags to
fill in the blank.
What do you want to be? You want to be that person that, forgets all these things, or you want to be that person that remembers that you got to help people and that it's all going to come back to you somehow, some way, and that you're not a loser, that you have an opportunity and you have a decision to make. And if you feel sorry for yourself and want to just crawl up into a little ball, that's not going to solve anything. Like I was talking about this with my brother one time, and he quoted Picasso. And Picasso says you're not going to make anything if you're just sitting on the couch, right? He's an artist.
That's right.
He only makes money if he's painting.
That's right.
And you're only successful if you do the things we're talking about here today.
Unless you're painting on the couch. I mean, I just have to throw that
Unless
out
you're
there.
painting on the couch,
Yeah.
of course. Be sarcastic, as
Yes,
always.
okay.
I have to just go back and emphasize something that you said today. You said, don't live to not lose. How did you say it?
I was playing not to lose
Playing
instead of
not
playing to win.
lose, right. So playing not to lose instead of playing to win. I love that.
Yeah.
I really like that.
You look at sports. I mean,
Yeah.
You have quarterbacks that they stick in there, right? Don't throw an interception. So they never take a chance. And so they did throw an interception, but they didn't necessarily win the game.
Yeah.
Right.
To
We
get
need
the
to
fruit,
play to
you got to
win.
go out on
Play
the
to
limb.
win. Play to win. I love it. Jose, how do we reach you?
Well, you can reach me at my email, jiperez2014@gmail.com. That's jiperez2014@gmail.com. Or I think you've got me tagged on Facebook. It's Jose Perez. I don't know. I think Jose I. Perez, I think, is what's my Facebook handle.
Okay, so facebook.com/
Jose I. Perez.
I. Perez.
And I think you've tagged me on your
Yes,
on your
we definitely have. And if anyone needs to reach him, of course, you can always contact us through retalkradio.com. I want to thank you very much, Jose.
You.
I know that you're speaking about this these days as well.
I am.
So that's wonderful. Thank you for coming all the way here
Of
from
course.
Atlanta for us, right after a hurricane. That makes us feel very special. Right, Phil?
Right.
You have shared an enormous amount of knowledge with us, and
you.
we very much appreciate you.
Yeah.
I also want to thank Phil Ferranda, who is a very dedicated co-host, who shows up, rain or shine, no matter what. He's always here. And I
Well, you drove me in.
I did drive you in.
That's
He had
true.
no choice.
Yeah, full
I
disclosure
went
here,
kicking
folks.
and screaming, throwing him in the car to get here for you, Perez. No, I'm just
Not really.
kidding.
I brought the tripod.
Just kidding.
Yeah.
I very much want to thank all of our listeners. Without you, we wouldn't have a show. Please visit retalkradio.com to get information on our host, how to reach them, our topics, our podcasts, and our blogs. Real Estate Talk airs every Sunday morning on AM 710 WOR. Until next time, I'm Victoria Rivadeneira, and thank you so much for listening to Real Estate Talk.